Good afternoon. Really excited about getting started this week. We had a bonus-like day today with our players and really focused on ourselves and a couple of areas of play that we feel like we need to shore up, particularly red zone offense and some red zone defense. As a matter of fact, we treated the last several days like a mini bye from a staff perspective and took a deep dive on some schematics in those
It is.
areas and then turned our attention towards Cincinnati and what they do in those areas, all in an effort to, make victory more, the engineering of victory more fluid. We've looked at the last collection of games, and we feel like there's more meat on that bone offensively and defensively. And so with the extra couple of days, we thought it was appropriate to focus on ourselves in that space. And then we focused on the application of that research today in terms of delivering that to the players and working those spaces a little bit. We'll proceed with the remainder of our week tomorrow. It'll be a normally scheduled Wednesday, and we'll lock in and lean in on the Bengals. But before I get into all of that, we'll do a quick review or an assessment of our last performance. As I said after the game, man, I just thought that we warmed up to it. And by warming up to it, I mean we didn't take control of the game at the early juncture.
Never
They
do.
made some splash plays, and particularly Myles Garrett, I thought, made some splash plays. We did our due diligence schematically in terms of working to minimize them. But like a lot of great players, man, he overcame some of those things in some instances, and I thought he just provided splash for them, not only in terms of playmaking, but the energy, the wave that he provided that the rest of them rode. Not only the players, but I thought environmentally. When he made those splash plays early in the game, it made it a tougher environment and thus tougher for us to navigate. I thought we smiled in the face of that adversity, and we fought our way back into the football game and made some plays of our own. And then in the waning moments of the game, I thought they simply made more plays than we did. I thought we had some moments, but I thought they made more plays than we did. And oftentimes when you're in tight ball games, it comes down to that weighty playmaking in the latter moments of games. They made a couple fourth down plays. I thought the Winston touchdown run on fourth down and 2 obviously was a significant example of that. We had an opportunity to get into our 4-minute offense and maybe close the game out. We were unsuccessful in that endeavor, and we coupled that with a less than ideal punt. And so, we got to get back to, weighty playmaking, particularly in the waning moments of games. That's life in the NFL. There's a fine line between drinking wine and squashing grapes. We know that. We live that. When you take a step back and watch ball at a distance like we were this week, it kind of verifies that sentiment if you didn't know it. And so we're excited about getting back to work this week, man. We know we got a big game this week in some AFC North competition. And so we're preparing with an edge with that understanding. From a health standpoint, we got Alex Highsmith leaning in on the return. We'll let his participation and the quality of that participation be our guide in terms of whether he gets back in or to what degree he gets back in. We got some other guys who are working their way back to us, like Corey Trice and Mon Adams, that may have an opportunity this week as well.
Corey, definitely.
Again, we'll leave the door ajar for those guys, man. There's strength in numbers, and obviously we need all the expertise that we can get as the road gets narrow and this competition gets thick as we move into December. Now talk Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, you can't talk these guys without talking Joe Burrow. If you look at the tape, man, he's MVP caliber in terms of what he's doing for them. I started first with the 2 Baltimore games because of the intimacy of divisional play. Man, I don't know how many touchdowns he threw in those 2 football games. I know
9.
Chase himself had 5. It's just kind of reflective of what he and they are capable of. We got to do a really good job. We better carry enough defense schematically.
He had
But
9.
within that, we better perform at a high enough level because it's not just schematics that beats them. You better have enough schematics. You better perform it or execute it at a relatively high level. You better do a good job of providing pre-snap looks. You better blitz some. You better play coverage some. You better do a lot of things. And I think that is reflective of a quarterback in his position. I say the same thing when we play guys like Matt Stafford and so forth, guys that are anticipatory passers, guys that are at complete command of their system of offense, guys that know where all their eligibles are. And oftentimes that's illustrated by his ability to throw no-look checkdowns and things of that nature. He just knows where all his people are. When you're playing quarterbacks like that, man, you better carry enough defense. You might be able to, trick them or stay ahead of them for 20 or 30 minutes, but you better have enough defense. It's a 60-minute game. I think that's reflected in watching them play. I think oftentimes you see teams are capable of slowing him or slowing them down at the early portions of the game, but in the fourth quarter, he and they are coming on like gangbusters. And so, I've been around long enough to have an appreciation for that. I know how and why that happens. You better carry enough defense. They get comfortable as the game goes on with what it is that you're doing, what it is they need to do to be successful, and they adjust, they adapt, both the individuals and the collective. And so for those reasons, man, we're obviously preparing with an edge. Man, he's got some top-notch eligibles to throw the ball to, starting with number 1, Chase. He's probably tops in the league in every wide receiver statistical category. He's got top-notch talent. They do an awesome job of moving him around within their system of offense. They got some continuity there, obviously, between he and Joe, who've been in that system for a number of years now. And I think it's reflected in the many things that they asked him to do. You turn on 2024 tape, there's more pre-snap movement from him. There's more positional variation from him, making him a more difficult guy to minimize. Obviously, T. Higgins is a matchup issue. He's big. He's strong. He's got really good run after. He got the speed on us last year and had a big play and kind of, got them back in that football game. But again, when you talk about T, you're talking about a guy who is combative, man, who doesn't die easy, particularly after the catch. We got to tackle. We got to wrap. They got some new additions to their group. Gesicki at tight end, man, is a vertical threat. He's often a mashup issue. Too big for defensive backs, too athletic for linebackers, and so we're being thoughtful about how we're formulating a plan to minimize him. He's got some talented new young receivers that are emerging because Tyler Boyd obviously is no longer there. Burton is one to mention, who's had a hat in recent weeks and appears to be a downfield guy for him. I was at his pro day in Tuscaloosa last year, man. He's really talented. He's got a well-rounded game. He's got some awesome receiver skills. And then they got a turnover in the backfield with Brown. Obviously, we're used to facing Mixon over the years from them, but Brown is not new to them. He's a second-year player. He's got a well-rounded skill set for the running back position. He's good in interior runs. He's good on perimeter runs. He's got good burst, pick, and vision. He's an asset to him in the passing game, particularly in the screen game. Screens have been a challenge for us against them in recent years. I looked at the screen reel this morning. I think they've run 23 screens of some description against us in the last 6 games to put some perspective on how big that component of play is. And so we got our hands full in terms of some of those things. On the defensive side of the ball, 9-1 is setting an awesome pace on the perimeter in terms of getting after the quarterback. He is an all-day job. You can allocate 2 people in body positions and things of that nature, but you can't find comfort in it because he sees those schematics week in and week out and still finds ways to impact the game in a very big way. His partner, Sam Hubbard, is versatile and talented. Sam's so versatile, I saw him on offense yesterday. Man, he's playing some situational tight end for him as well, and I just think that speaks to his football intellect and versatility. Their second-level defenders, man, Wilson and company, is a homegrown products and have grown up in that system of defense, and I think it's reflected in not only the many things that they're capable of doing, but how they communicate, how they're coordinated. Wilson, man, every year it seems like he adds a new trick to his bag. This year, man, oftentimes he's a component of their rush. They get in some sub packages, some dime 32, some nickel 33, and oftentimes he's the 4th and 5th rusher. He does a really good job in that area, picking offensive linemen and things of that nature. He's an asset versus quarterback mobility. I've seen him in some of those quarterback mobility games, Washington and Baltimore, where he matches athleticism against the opposing quarterbacks. And so he's got big-time versatility there. They got a lot of quality players in the secondary. Taylor Britt, man, is an aggressive guy, very ball-aware, a sound run support guy and tackler, as is Mike Hilton. And I think that's one of the reasons why they're completely comfortable playing sub-package football. When you got a nickel like Mike, who's a good blitzer,
Mike.
a good run game tackler, is very good on the perimeter. I think they're comfortable standing up in a lot of circumstances in that personnel group, and the tape reflects that. Got some top quality players at safety. Geno Stone's a new acquisition. Obviously, Geno is not new to us, being a former Raven, and I'd imagine that's why they were attracted to him. He had an awesome interception against them a year ago. As a Raven, he's doing quality work for them. As a center fielder and central communicator on the back end and tying all those things together. Darren in special teams, man, has been there a long time. He's probably been there as long as I've been here. And I think that's reflected in the cohesion in which they operate in that phase of the game, in the playmaking that happens in that game. We're highly familiar with these guys, but I'm sure they're highly familiar with us as well. And I just think that that's a component of AFC North football that makes it exciting and interesting this time of year. I know we have big-time urgency as we formulate our plans, and I'm excited about putting the group to work in preparation for this opportunity the remainder of the week. So that being said, I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Does it say anything to you, or is it an indicator of anything that you haven't lost to a team with a winning record? I think you're the only team with a 5-0 record. That you get in those big moments, you play well.
You know, I haven't overanalyzed it in that way. Really, we're just trying to win week in and week out, and you know, whoever it is that we play, we try to formulate a schematic plan. We try to divide the labor up that kind of accentuates our talents and minimizes our weaknesses. And really, it's just kind of a week-to-week mentality more than anything else. And do we have belief in ourselves? Certainly. We won't back down from any challenge, but I hadn't thought about it. Really, that's the first I've heard of that.
Why haven't you guys gotten as many sacks collectively this year?
You know, probably a lot of reasons, to be honest with you. We've had people missing at times, and oftentimes the strength of the pack is the pack. For a large portion of the early portion of the season, we were without Alex and Herbert, for example, and then obviously when you minus guys like that, people can focus their energies on TJ and things of that nature, but also just the nature in which people play us, particularly in one-dimensional passing moments. They're aware of our reputation and the reputation of individuals within our group. Oftentimes we see max protection, particularly when it's possession down and distance, and obviously that minimizes your capabilities in terms of getting home. It makes it easier to cover people on the back end, but it does make it more difficult to get home. And so for us, we're just trying to be successful in those moments. We don't have control of all the variables in those moments. If people choose to protect, then we better win on the back end. If people have 5 eligible out, we better win in terms of the rush. I think that's probably the spirit in which we operate and how a lot of these things have kind of unfolded.
Moved T.J. Watt to the other side of the formation that he normally lines up 4 times against the Giants. Since then, you guys really haven't done that at all. Is that more so about game planning, or has that been more about the personnel that have been available?
It's probably a little bit of both. I think we were working at a deficit at the Giant game in terms of our edge people. As we get everybody back, we're more inclined to play from their home spots.
Around more something that you guys want to do, or do you want guys to have more home spots in your defense?
You know, it's week to week, to be quite honest with you. Some of those discussions are matchup based about the people that we face, and so they're relative to particular weeks.
What did your study in the mini-bye tell you about your short yardage?
We need to get better is a component of it. But also there were some game circumstances. You know, we as a coaching staff need to adapt and adjust to replay assist. Sometimes we make decisions at speed, and a spot of the ball might be different, or a circumstance might be different based on replay assist. And I think that's happened 2 or 3 times in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And, you know, that's been a component of performance for us. And so, you know, some of the things got nothing to do specifically with the schematics that we call or the utilization of people. It's just those moments. And administratively and logistically how things go. And so we looked at all components of it, but obviously we need to be better than we've been, particularly of late.
Do you have from replay assist to making that call? Do they give you any extra time when they?
It really depends on the speed in which they administer replay assist. And so, that's subject to vary.
Self-scouting on short yardage situations. Did that study reveal any common thread into some of the red zone struggles that have happened lately?
No doubt on both sides of the ball. And that's why we're excited about getting back to work today. And, the application component, identification is just one component. Application is probably more significant in terms of what are we going to do to rectify it, both in schematics and with manpower.
As far as red zone offense goes, is it a personnel thing, a play calling thing, a mix of the two?
I think when you're not getting the desired result, it's always a combination of all of the above. I think if it was really simple and in one area, we wouldn't be having this discussion. And so there were multiple components to the discussion, certainly.
Mike, what have you guys learned about having the sub package where Justin comes in for Russ in a couple of weeks? When you evaluate the production there, what's the benefit of having him come in mid-series as opposed to on first down?
It's a component of what we do. I've been pretty clear about that. Once Justin got healthy, he's a viable and capable dude, and it's something that our opponents have to be aware of. When we use it or how much we utilize it will be dependent on plans week to week.
What's the benefit? What's the benefit? Usually, when something like that happens, it's at the start of a series, but you guys are doing it like on second down, on third down. What's the benefit from the coaching staff standpoint doing it?
There's a strategic component that I won't get into detailing, but certainly we
Nor
feel
should he.
comfortable with how we infuse it and when we infuse it, certainly.
So there's no concern about disrupting the rhythm of the offense or anything like that?
Certainly there's a potential of that, but we're more excited about the challenges that it presents the opposing unit. And I think that's reflective of our general attitude. We live in our hope as opposed to our fears.
How's that
Justin
work
said
with you and Arthur? Is that kind of like you go to him and say, it might be a good time to make a switch, or come to you? Is that just a constant conversation?
It could happen from either party and has, certainly.
he felt like it was maybe kind of random or on feel when he goes in. Is that the case, or is it a down and distance situation?
Again, as I mentioned, those plans are formulated week to week based on the opponent. And so, I don't know if this week will be reflective of what you saw last week, to be quite honest with you. Just know that it is certainly a component of what we do and a component of every plan.
Is there a particular challenge to having 4 division games in a row?
I hadn't thought about it in that way. I know we play 6 every year, and that's kind of my mindset. When they occur, I'm less concerned about because we don't have control over that. I love them, to be quite honest with you, in the latter part of the year as the road gets narrow because there's weight on it. And as a competitor, man, you like to be in big moments and big games, and so that's exciting.
Mike, you were 1 for 3 on fourth down. When you go back and look at those missed opportunities, do you say, oh, we didn't execute this, or do you say, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have gone for it after going back and looking at it?
It's probably a little bit of both in terms of analysis when you look back at it, but that's the benefit of hindsight. We're going to be aggressive
2020.
in terms of the pursuit of victory, and so most of the time I'm comfortable with the decision to go, and it's more focused on what we're doing schematically or the quality of that execution.
Mike, you guys have now had Mike Williams about 3 weeks. Just how has he done jumping on this moving train, and what more can he do to gain a larger target share?
Yeah, he's done a nice job, man, just fitting in, learning our football and how we go about our business and getting himself ready for what we're asking him to do week in and week out. And it's reasonable to expect that to continue and grow the longer he's here.
George was involved in what looked like a post-game scuffle on the Hail Mary attempt. What happened on that play? What was he supposed to be doing?
I didn't see the video. I heard about it. Certainly he was involved in the Hail Mary.
What he's supposed to be doing is going for the ball, but Greg Newsome had other ideas.
Anything about them looking into that?
I did not.
What is a point man on Hail Mary?
The guy that high points the football.
Is he in position to do that?
I think their actions
No.
had something to do with him not being in position to do that.
Mike Broderick says that he appreciates you having faith in him, pat on the back. How do you determine which guys need a pat on the back or a kick in the butt?
The things that, I do with them in the privacy of our space, I'll leave between us. The things that I tell you guys often isn't necessarily how I handle them.
The whole hot dog
and I'll
thing.
simply leave it at that.
How much are you learning about, or how much is there learning versus growth with not only Broderick, but Mason next to him, being that they're both first and second year players?
They're talented young people. Obviously, that's why they're playing. But at the same time, I own the responsibility of their growth and development as a coach and leader. And so, I like working with young players. I like to be a component of their growth and development. But all in the midst of that, they have to play winning football for us. And I certainly think they're capable, and I certainly think they understand the responsibility. And in the midst of that, man, we're working to get better.
Minka hasn't, produced as far as turnovers, but you guys are giving up among the fewest production in the middle part of the field. What does he do that might be overlooked by people who don't see what he's doing on the back end of the defense?
People don't throw the ball in that space, but I think that's what happens when you got quality players. People show their respect to quality players by being cautious about how they go about playing. We played Atlanta Falcons week one. We threw 0 balls in the middle of the field because of Jesse Bates. We're familiar with Jesse Bates. We know what Jesse Bates is capable of. A few weeks after we played him, somebody threw the ball in the middle of the field, and he won the game for Atlanta Falcons. And so that's just football in the NFL. You better be cognizant of the personnel and unique skill sets, and you show respect to those talents by being thoughtful about how you attack them.
Mike, is it typical for you guys to self-evaluate during the mini-bye week? Is that something you've always done?
Yes.
What do you look for when you're going in there? Is it something specific or whatever jumps out at you?
Usually it's pointed and specific on areas that we identify that need improvement, like red zone offense, red zone defense in recent weeks.
As far as rearranging, the practice schedule to have that additional time to self-scout the coaching staff yesterday, is any part of that also extra rest, knowing that coming up there's 3 games in 10 days?
No.
Like Jamar Chase, you mentioned where he's tops in a lot of different categories. Yards after catch is one of them. Touchdowns is another. How do you try to contain him in those 2 areas in particular? And they may be combined.
We better be close to him, and then we better tackle the catch. It's as simple as that.
They actually do that
not
very
close to
well
him and
this
he gets
year,
the speed.
and great
He's a
with
problem. And so
not having missed tackles.
Obviously, like I mentioned at the beginning, we better carry a full menu, some zone, some man. Regardless of whether it's zone or man, you better have people close to them. You better pass them through zones. You better be thoughtful about the man component, all in an effort to challenge him at the catch point. And if you're unsuccessful in that endeavor, you better get him on the ground sooner rather than later. The longer he's on his feet, the more likelihood he's going to ring the scoreboard up. And that's just what the tape tells us.
You guys moved Joey a little bit. He was lining up in the slot a few times on, against the Browns. How did you assess him moving around your defense? It appeared like he did that more often in that game than he had in a lot of other games.
Got no issue with that. Joey's always game. He's always looking for the matchup in action. I like how that unfolded.
Mike Broderick said he needs to be focused more at times. To you, what does that mean, being focused?
Again, I don't know the context of the discussion that you had with Broderick, and so I'm going to be slow to add any color to it. Broderick's a talented young player. He's working every day to get better. He cares. I like the overall trajectory of it.
Mike, when you say he cares, where do you see that manifest itself?
In everything that he does.
Mike, Jalen got a little bigger piece of the pie in terms of the workload from running backs last game. Was that just game plan specific, or were there other external factors like the short week and things of that nature?
It was a short week. We wanted to utilize all our healthy people in an effort to get the best product out there. And not only at the running back position, but we had an inclusive mentality about the participation of all people in helmets.
You had 3 straight games. That was over 5 yards a carry, over 100 yards, and then the last 3 have been almost half that. Is that a reflection of you of lack of performance of your team in the rushing game, or a change in the way teams have been trying to defend you?
Probably a little bit of both, to be honest with you, and we'll see what this week holds.
Mike, on the 3rd and 4, Justin said it was basically pick a side of the field he was gonna go for one-on-one. Was there anything else built in there where you had an intermediate route to get the first down?
No, we felt good about it, to be quite honest with you. It was a weighty moment. It was third medium.
Take off
Had
and
11
run.
guys within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. We had GP matched up on a corner not named Denzel Ward. That feels like more than a 50-50 ball to me, and so we were comfortable with that decision.
Even though Justin hadn't thrown a pass in a game in a month.
Even though, certainly.
He throws at practice.
Like Giorgio also said after the game, he didn't think the Browns were a very good team. Conditions kind of saved them. Are you all right with guys putting that out there, or do you wish you'd keep that frustration?
I'm not going to add color to people's comments. Their comments and thoughts and feelings are their own. I don't want them to be robots. I don't tell them what to think or say. And so I've just learned over the years, man, not to add color to what people say or their comments. Those are their comments and thoughts. And so if you want
He probably
additional
talked to George,
information
though.
or perspective on it, ask them.
Mike, it looked like there was a lot of stuff going on the end of that third and fourth pass downfield. How was the throw? Was it executed?
Which play are you talking about?
The third down the fields through the pickets.
And what was your question?
It looked like there was a lot of fighting going on at the end of it, but how was the throw, the accuracy? The
You know, I don't know that I had a real good judgment of the throw because of the interaction that you mentioned.
There's not much you
Fair
have
enough.
experienced in your NFL career, but the Hard Knocks cameras being on a show in season, what are your thoughts on that? Have you told the guys
That
much
starts in a
about
few days,
how
I
to handle
think.
it?
To me, it's something to conquer, to be quite honest with you. We have to deal with it better than the other three teams. That's how I view a lot of things that come across my plate, particularly when others have to deal with it. I'm less concerned about the inconvenience of it and more concerned about, are we positioning ourselves to perform under those conditions better than those that we compete against. And so, you know, it's something that everyone in the AFC North has to deal with, and so it's our agenda to do so better than the other three teams.
Anyone else? All right.
Thanks, guys.
I'm just ever gonna slightly bring it. Good enough. Actually, let me see.
Anyone else? All right.
Thanks, guys.
Good enough right there. All right, so I'm quickly trying to search for when Hard Knock starts. I think December 3rd. Yes, it'll kick off Tuesday, December 3rd at 9 p.m. Eastern on HBO. Okay. So, yeah. That's what I was thinking. Because I'm like, I think it starts like next week or something like that. And lo and behold. So, Tuesday, December 3rd. So, Geno Stone, I think he had, 7 interceptions last year or something like that? Which that really goes to show what kind of a player he is. And, you know, Mike, some of the stuff Mike says is the same stuff I say or think for X amount of time this season. Where you have Minkah Fitzpatrick and everyone's saying, you know, oh, he's not getting interceptions and he's not doing this, and he's not doing that. Well, yeah, like, he's eliminating a portion of the field. People don't often throw his way because he makes those plays. It's the same thing if a cornerback doesn't register many stats during the season. Like, how often was... I don't want to have people coming at me for comparing or putting these two people in the same sentence, but like Darrelle Revis, right? How often was he thrown at? So he might not put up a lot of stats. Or Deion Sanders. He might not put up a lot of stats because he's not being thrown at. Just think of the great cornerbacks throughout NFL history. And it's, oh, this guy only had, 10 pass defense this season. Or pass breakups this season. It's like, well, yeah. He was thrown at 3 or 4 times a game. That's it. You know? You throw him 3 times a game. So in the course of a 16-game season, call it, that's 48 times he was thrown at. And, he had 10 breakups. Let's say he allowed 20 catches, right? Throughout the entirety of the season. Maybe he allows 1 or 2 touchdowns, but the point is that the elite corners throughout NFL history, they didn't register insane stats every single year. And why not? Because they weren't being thrown at. So Minkah Fitzpatrick, because in the past he has made all of these plays and all of these interceptions, he's not being thrown at. He eliminates a portion of the field because of his play. And that's what Mike Tomlin was saying. They purposefully stayed away from Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons. He specifically said Jesse, but I'm going to throw Justin Simmons in there as well. When they played Atlanta. Why? Because they know Jesse well from his time in Cincinnati. They know what kind of player he is. And then he said, some weeks later, he intercepted a football and ended the game. So they avoided Jesse. Teams avoid Minkah. Why do you think teams will take the elite pass rushers of the NFL? TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Nick Bosa, all of these elite pass rushers that are in the NFL, and you double team them, you chip them, and that's the thing is, 2 or 3 guys could touch / block these elite pass rushers on a given play. Because if you have 2 guys chip, if you tell the tight end, you're going to chip, running back, you're going to go out, you're going to chip, and the right tackle is going to continue to block, or the left tackle is going to continue to block, or, hey, left guard, right guard, you're going to slide and you're going to help the tackle, or center, you're going to help the guard. These elite guys, and, if you want to throw interior guys, Chris Jones, Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald would get triple teamed in order to try to stop him. When you have these elite guys on the line, you're going to do whatever you can to stop them. So you double team, you triple team, you chip. It's the same thing. You are actively changing your game plan or suiting your game plan to limit or eliminate that player's effect on the game. So guess what? Our game plan is so we don't throw at Minkah. We don't throw at Jesse Bates. We don't throw at name elite safety or corner in the NFL. And then you scheme your game plan to block the elite pass rusher, the elite defensive lineman. And defenses do the same thing with elite wide receivers or elite tight ends. Okay, you're doubled. I mean, Bill Belichick, he made, with his defense, he would double the number 1 wide receiver with the number 2 corner and a safety, and then throw his number 1 on the team's number 2. And he would do that for those elite players. That's what you do. When you have an elite player, it's the same thing as throwing your number 1 star corner on a team's number one star receiver. Your game plan is, hey, you follow him. Where he goes, you go. Like, that is what teams will do. So, for Minka, it's teams are actively avoiding him. So, he can have an impact on the game, and it doesn't show up in the stat sheet. TJ can have an effect on the game, and it just doesn't show up in the stat sheet. You know, okay, he didn't get the sack, but he got the pressure, which led to Cam Hayward getting the sack, or Nick Herbig getting the sack, or, maybe he hit the quarterback, which forced the throw to be bad, and someone else, one of the guys in the secondary picks it off. There's ways you can avoid or affect the game without sacks or without interceptions. So that's definitely a part of it. And that's where I'm just like, thank you. Like, when people complain that this person isn't doing well, are they not doing well? Or is it just something that doesn't show up on your generic stats? Because you have next gen stats and it shows XYZ. And, so maybe if you looked at the next gen stats, maybe it comes up there. And then talking about the game, I mentioned this quite a bit, I think, when I did my review. But I wasn't a fan of a lot of the fourth down calls. Like, why? Just punt it away. And maybe if they had punted earlier in the game, and, maybe Corliss shanks one early, but then he can adjust for late in the game when you're trying to put it away, and then he can actually have a good punt. So that's all. I mean, as far as like that goes. And the 3rd and 4, I mean, Tomlin's right. With all that contact, you're never going to know if it was a good throw or not. And he called it on the Hail Mary. He said it without really saying anything. But, Greg Newsome made sure George Pickens was going to have no impact on that Hail Mary. And when he forced George right out the back of the end zone, right towards the stands, I mean, that's what gets George pissed off, and he's going to retaliate. So that was 100%, I would say caused by Greg Newsome. And, I mean, people are going to say, oh, you're just going to let the players play. I'm never a fan of that. If it's a penalty, call it. I don't care about the situation. You know what? It hurt my team. Or if it hurts my team. But guess what? It was a penalty. I'm very much a by the rules kind of person. And so, like, I hate makeup calls, too. Like, they miss a roughing the passer, let's say. So, instead, a few plays later, they call face mask penalty. Sorry, I got a text. They call like a face mask. And then you're looking, it's like, where's the face mask? And it's like, he was only on like the shoulder pad, let's say. Or it's like, there you go, that's your makeup call. Or the defensive lineman barely hits the quarterback or barely touches him, and it's flag, roughing the passer. Like, no, you missed the actual roughing the passer. this is not roughing the passer or not a face mask, whatever you want to call it. You're just doing that as a makeup call, and that I hate. Because you fucked up, just own it and move on. Though I know we're asking the refs to own up to their mistakes. That's what we're asking right there. And we all know that's not going to happen. Yes, it's flat out not. We saw how the pass interference, when you could challenge that, we see how that went, and they really didn't like admitting that they were wrong, even though all of America can see what the call is, or what it should be, and the refs go the opposite way, because they don't like to admit that they were wrong. So, I mean, yeah, they were pretty physical with George. And then, as far as Cincinnati's concerned, as Bill Belichick said, we're on to Cincinnati. It's going to be one heck of a game. Jermaine Pratt guaranteed a win, which you know for damn sure that is posted everywhere around the Steelers locker room. It's going to be posted everywhere, and it's going to be used as motivation. And you just don't do that. You don't guarantee wins. I understand Joe Namath. He guaranteed a win in the Super Bowl, 55 years ago? Somewhere in that ballpark. I think maybe 55 years ago. I understand Joe Namath did it. And he, if you want to say lucked out, or he got it right, whatever you want to say, that's fine. But you don't guarantee wins. You don't. Because that's where it's going to piss off Pittsburgh. They'll go into Cincinnati, and they'll win by 3 touchdowns. I don't think it's going to actually happen. I think it's going to be a very close game. It'll probably be a 1-score game in either team's favor. But you don't do that. And if Pittsburgh were to go into Cincinnati and absolutely just crush the Bengals, Pratt would be the person you blame. But yeah, it's going to take a lot to try to contain Jamar Chase. It's going to take a lot to contain T. Higgins. My phone's going nuts because UB is playing Kent State. And it is, 43-7 UB. At least the football team's good. Basketball team, not so much. But Pittsburgh, they are good about not having missed tackles. Amazingly enough, they're actually pretty good at not missing their tackles this season. So as far as run after the catch, you're not going to get a whole lot by forcing missed tackles. Anything, for the most part, where they've allowed run after catch is because the player breaks free, like Terry McLaurin did versus Pittsburgh. And Joey, fortunately, was able to chase him down, but it still resulted in a touchdown to one of their running backs, either Eckler or McNichols. But it's going to be a challenge to try to stop them. Though we do have a couple AFC North defenders that came over that have playing experience in Baltimore, so it's not like they're going to be unfamiliar with Burrow, along with everyone else that we have retained. So everyone's familiar with Joe Burrow. It's going to be interesting if TJ Watt can get another one of those interceptions. He did it twice last year. Was it last year or was it 2 years ago? I think it was last year, maybe. No. 2 years ago. The year he got injured. No, that was 3 years ago. Fuck. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of that stuff. But yeah, it's going to be hard to try to contain all of the weapons they have on offense. As far as defense, their defense is not very good. They have a second to last red zone defense, I believe, where they allow a touchdown like 70% of the time or something like that. So if Pittsburgh can't find success in the red zone in this game, then something's really wrong. And I don't want to hear from people, like, let's say Pittsburgh actually does well in the red zone, right? I don't want to hear well, it was Cincinnati, who has a terrible red zone defense. But if they don't do well, it's, wow, not even versus Cincinnati. Like, it's kind of like a lose-lose where it's, well, it was only Cincinnati, and then if you didn't do it, it's, wow, you couldn't against Cincinnati. But it's definitely going to be a good game, I think. So, and I do enjoy Mike Tomlin, listening to him talk. I think I say that every week, but if you want to listen to him talk just for like a long time, listen to him on the couple times he's been on the Pivot. Because one was like an hour and a half long episode, and the other one was maybe half hour, 45 minutes. So you got, 2 hours of Mike Tomlin that you can listen to there. So thank you everyone for watching. If you did enjoy it, please do leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.